my grandfather, he was kind of traveling back via the UK. 5 Punjabi men just walked past him and they said, why don't you come, you've got 2 days, why don't you come and work with us for a couple of days and see how much you can make here compared to India. And he made, I think, his whole month's salary in those 2 days. And then he was like, right, we're not going back, I'm bringing my daughter, my wife.
Imagine if he didn't meet those people, he would have probably never come here. And maybe you wouldn't.
Hi, my name's Anoli Metha. I'm the founder and CEO of Circular Threads. We're the UK's first and fastest growing platform for pre-loved South Asian clothing. Growing up, I was very conscious about, showing my true self or kind of coming into school smelling like Indian spices. When my mum cooked in the morning, I was like, no, I'm not coming into the kitchen. As Indians, why aren't we as proud or teaching and showing people what we do as something that's celebrated versus something that's kind of shunned away? Lockdown hit and I was like really itching for an idea. And so that's where Circular Threads all began. And we kind of set up an initial website and an Instagram page. And then we started growing our community from there.
So you bring that convenience at affordable cost and it's sustainable. I think it's just magic. Hi, Anoli. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I love what you do. But before we get into that, let's talk about your immigrant journey. So are you first, second generation, and how did this whole journey start?
Yeah, so I'm second generation. My parents were not born in this country. My dad was born in Kenya, and my mum was born in Punjab. And they both came to this country. My mum actually came when she was 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
And my dad came at university about 18, and that's where they met. And he's originally Gujarati and my mum is Punjabi. But they have a very interesting story. Well, my mum specifically, because my grandfather was actually studying in Canada. And he was studying engineering and he hated it there. He found it very racist at the time and, he faced a lot of problems. So on his way back, it was by boat at that point. He was kind of traveling back via the UK, via Liverpool. And he was there, I think there was a stopover for about 3 days. And during those 3 days, I think 5 Punjabi men just walked past him and saw another Punjabi and they thought, oh, what's your story? Why are you here? And he was like, look, I'm just stopping over. I'm going back to India. And they said, why don't you come? You've got 2 days. Why don't you come and work with us for a couple of days and see how much you can make here compared to India? And he made, I think, his whole month's salary in those 2 days. And then he was like, right, we're not going back. I'm bringing my daughter, my wife. And then they kind of came to the UK at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Talking about how your every decision just impacts your life, like positive and negative.
Yeah.
Imagine if he didn't meet those people, he would have probably never come here.
Yeah.
And maybe you wouldn't.
Yeah, my parents
so crazy.
met and yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I can only assume that a lot of the immigrant founders that you're speaking to have very similar circumstantial stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's first generation, I mean, it's just the decisions that you've made and finally you've picked this country over God knows all the other options that you've had, and then how this country has just impacted your life and how it continues to impact so many other people's lives because now you're building businesses in this country and so on. It's very fascinating how every decision is a catalyst to the bigger part of your life. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So your dad came here just to study. I mean, he had no other agenda, no family. So grandparents from your dad's side were in...
Yeah, they were still in Kenya. And he came with his brother to the UK. And his older brother is in the US and his older sister moved to India. So they all kind of moved out of Kenya for seeking, bigger opportunities.
Because, I mean, the reason I ask is because at one point, because I've spoken to a few people also who have a similar story like your dad, And I think at one point there were some issues in Kenya, and a lot of um, Indian ethnic background, like people moved to different countries, and I think UK was a part of it.
Yes. So I think that that was also a factor that was played into it, but mainly it was kind of education and kind of, building a better career outside of Kenya. And I think a lot of people did move to the UK because there were synergies and,
Yeah.
Education system and language, etc. So it made the switch or the decision a little bit easier for them.
So how's your life growing up in the UK? I mean, are you thinking you're an immigrant, you're different, or that wasn't the case?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's difficult. I think identity-wise, I think my personality is very British, but I still identify as an Indian, if that's the question that you were kind of going for. And growing up, I would say I did kind of reject my culture growing up. And I think that does resonate with a lot of people who are brought up here, especially in the same age group or generation. Because, yeah, you kind of want to fit in. And I think now, like, your kind of history and culture is a lot more celebrated than it was kind of when I was growing up. It was more kind of an outsider mentality, which is why growing up, I was very conscious about, showing my true self or kind of coming into school smelling like Indian spices. When my mum cooked in the morning, I was like, no, I'm not coming into the kitchen. All the way through to kind of day-to-day, like, events and festivals that we have, and shying away from that. And I'd always kind of look to my Jewish friends who are very proud of their kind of culture. And I kind of would think to myself, why, as Indians, why aren't we as proud, or kind of teaching and showing people what we do as something that's celebrated versus something that's kind of shunned away. Yeah.
I think it's interesting also, not just UK specific. So I was raised in Dubai, like I grew up in Dubai all my life. And I think I had a similar problem where I kind of somehow wanted to camouflage or just hide the Indian side of things. And I think it was different for me. It was more of the different Arabs did not have that problem, like at least in my experience. Like they celebrated their culture, because you spoke about the Jewish, and I can compare the Arabs, like if you were, I don't know, Palestinian or Jordanian or whatever, like everybody just celebrated the culture. And me being an Indian, I was just like, oh shit, I wanted to, I don't know, somehow pretend or become or be perceived as an Arab, because maybe I was in the Arabic culture. And I had a similar problem as well. Oh my God, like when my mom used to cook, I was like, oh shit, I'm not coming in the kitchen because I don't want to smell like curry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me now, there are two things which have slightly changed. I think one is age, maybe. I think as you mature, things do change. But also, specifically after I moved to the UK, and I don't know if maybe you can't really or won't really resonate, maybe, or maybe you would be because you've also seen the transition. Like, I think a city like Dubai, like as perhaps like it's very diverse. But I think for me, London is somehow just way more diverse. And diversity is also celebrated weirdly and maybe nicely on a different level, especially since I came to the UK like about 5 years ago. Like the whole diversity, inclusion type of conversation is just so evident and so present, not just in the workplace, but just across the board. Yeah, so I think for me, it was also a little bit of a shock, but a positive shock, where I was like, oh, I'm trying to fit in. I'm trying to work on a British accent. I'm trying to do all those things, and I'm looking around and thinking, oh shit, like, people actually celebrate you if you stand out rather than fit in. Like, I don't know, that has been my experience since I've come here.
Yeah, I see it. I think it's a lot more in London. I think that, like, because London is a melting pot of kind of different cultures and diversity. I think it's celebrated across the UK, which is amazing. But I feel like in London, because there are so many people coming and going, and I've been born and brought up in London my whole life, so maybe it's also I just don't know it's different. But I feel very lucky and kind of privileged to have been brought up in London and kind of had so many different people around me my whole life. And it has kind of almost felt like I don't need to travel anywhere else because I have access, or I'm like experiencing stories from so many different people from different cultures that I don't feel like I need to, live anywhere else to be able to access that. Sorry, that was a little bit off topic.
No, but it makes sense though. I mean, because I think the interesting thing about being in a place, and I think I'm also very privileged. Like I also consider myself very lucky to be in this city, where you have this city being a melting pot, but it's also celebrated because, again, I mean, there are a few other countries or cities which are also melting pots, but sometimes it's not as celebrated as it is in London. Like I feel. London acknowledges or understands how immensely powerful that is for the city and for the economy and so on. A lot of other places, maybe you don't have this, you don't have a similar mindset. I think that has been my experience when I look at other cities being a melting pot versus London being a melting. I think London just acknowledges and leverages that as a strength more than a lot of other cities.
I can see that, and I think it's also because it's celebrated, it sets you up a little bit more for success versus just kind of being underwater and trying to swim elsewhere. I think I would agree with that.
So okay, like I started this pod by saying I love what you do, but once again, before we get to what you do, and I'll also tell you why I love what you do. But before that, so what led you into this? What were you doing before this? Were you working somewhere? Were you another startup? And
so I kind of did a more conventional path. I was always I was never the top student, I would say, and I never really had an idea of what I wanted to do when professionally. So I kind of fell into a few things. So I studied geography with economics at LSE, and I was always kind of interested in sustainability and development. But post-university, I still wasn't really sure, and I was in London, and I did an internship at Ernst & Young, doing management consultancy. I kind of did the usual path, like very stable. And I just naturally fell into the full-time role after my internship. And I was there for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And in consulting. And in my penultimate 2 years, I knew that it kind of wouldn't quite align with my future ambitions. I still wasn't sure what it was at that point, but I knew I wasn't getting completely fulfilled, and I didn't really see myself going for a partnership. But I felt like I had more to give. And in my penultimate 2 years, I was part of the tech and innovation team, which kind of gave me visibility of the startup scene, specifically in people advisory, so HR systems and talent systems and things like that. And we were looking at who we could partner with or acquire, or kind of whether we needed to build technology in-house. So a lot of it was about kind of changing perceptions of how we currently run our consulting business, and whether we actually need to, work with startups and new technology to superpower our consulting services. And then it was off the back of this that I was kind of exposed to the startup world and startup scene, and I thought, actually, maybe this is more aligned or attuned to what I'm good at. And then I carried on, and lockdown hit, and I was like really itching for an idea, because I knew that would be kind of where my drive was. I just needed something that I really truly cared about and was passionate about. And I was kind of trawling through, I think a lot of people were doing this at the time, like reorganizing their lives and rethinking their careers. And a part of that process was me going into my loft and kind of reorganizing everything that we have. And I came across 12 Indian outfits that I had worn back in 2017. My brother and my sister got married in the same year, not to each other, separately. But yeah, they got married in the same year. And it started bringing back a lot of memories as to like the end-to-end buying process, going to all the ethnic hubs across the UK, not sure whether I was being ripped off, not being able to find something that I liked that was appropriate for the event. And then us kind of flying to India, buying the outfits from there, and then coming back, wearing them once for about 1 hour, and then them sitting in my loft for the next kind of 4 or 5 years. And I was thinking to myself, okay, right now we're in the pandemic. Vintage was kind of on the rise. Rental platforms were also kind of kicking off. And I was thinking to myself, why is there nothing for South Asian clothing or, ethnic wear in general? Because the majority of ethnicities have face the same kind of problems. And so I started off by kind of trying to sell these pieces on eBay and Vinted, and there was no real traction there. And if there was, it was people wanting to buy like a £200 outfit for £10.
Oh, wow.
So it was like really, you'd rather give it to charity at that point. So there was no dedicated community of customers that were looking to buy such specialist items. And then that's what I set out to build. So I did some initial market research. We had about 300 responses across the UK, just understanding buying patterns and then selling patterns. And the results were resounding in that, like 98% of people wanted somewhere to sell, but there wasn't anywhere that would kind of do the end-to-end managed service on their behalf. And so that's where Circular Threads all began. And we kind of set up an initial website and an Instagram page, and then we started growing our community from there.
Love it. A few things though, really quickly off the back, because you're buying these dresses for really special occasions of your life. What's the buying behavior like? Are people okay with buying clothes that are not, used? Obviously they're not used from that perspective, but they are. It was not curated specifically for you. Like you didn't go out and find that piece of material and did all that hard work. What I'm trying to come to is there also a beauty in going through that pain and then making it your own? Or do people actually value that? And of course you're paying a premium, not just from a price perspective, but also your time. Or it does not really matter so much, and people can, people appreciate the circular economy aspect and sustainability and all that. Just trying to understand that.
No, it's a really good question, and it's like, I think it's multidimensional. So to begin with, when we launched the platform, that was my biggest I thought that would be the biggest blocker, which is there might be a stigma attached to it, or people might enjoy the process of going to shop for these items. Taking my own experience in hand, I was like, I just want somewhere that I can very quickly purchase something that I like, that fits me, and that it's not costing me the earth, in both senses. But I think that like people live really busy lives, and in order to I think that only a certain type of customer would be able to spend the amount of time, money, effort to do the end-to-end journey, especially if you're living outside of South Asian countries, because you don't have the access to these items. It's not as easy as going to your local designer and speaking with them about everything either needs to be done on WhatsApp. There's the lack of trust. It's, there's so many different blockers in place that makes what should be such a beautiful process into a very cumbersome, untrustworthy, expensive process. And that's what we're trying to kind of, not necessarily, like, we're trying to solve those multifaceted problems in one by having, perfect condition outfits at the kind of touch of your hands, and being able to access that through a website, through kind of our usual shopping habits. We're translating that almost to make it the process as seamless as possible and less cumbersome.
So the process now, am I, as the first user, am I selling my product or am I renting my product on your platform? So
we are resale, completely resale. So we've gone through the motions. A lot of people would love to rent, but so there's a couple of things with rental, which is that as soon as you say it's for rental, the way people treat the outfits are completely different as they're giving it back. So, they can get damaged much easier. We also, it's very expensive to do dry cleaning, and shipping then becomes, it's less kind of sustainable because you're shipping things back and forth. However, there is a model that rental can work. But for what we offer at the moment, we basically say, look, you want to enjoy the outfit. Don't be worried about it, the whole weekend of your wedding. Buy it, enjoy it, buy it for half price, enjoy it, wear it. And then when you're done, sell it back. Like, we have bridal outfits that are on to their 6th bride now, because they're just kind of like bought and resold and resold and bought and resold. And that's kind of the kind of behavior that we're looking to put in front of brides. And I think a lot of brides now are coming to us and saying, okay, great, like, love it. What's the best resale value? Like, I want to buy, if I can't find something from you guys and I buy elsewhere, how can I retain its value so that I can then sell with you?
Right.
So like the whole kind of mentality has changed around shopping for these items. Yeah.
And from a price perspective, so is that example that you just gave now, so this one dress is on the 6th bride now. From a price perspective, is the price also dropping by 600 times now?
No. So the first time you sell a product on our platform, if it's not bought from us, it tends to be, obviously it depends on the condition and the designer and the type of outfit, but it tends to be about 40% of retail value. And then once it's sold on the platform and bought at that price, the value retains, because we know exactly that somebody's, it's a desirable outfit that people want and it's still in great condition. So at that point, the value stays pretty high. You'll always be paying a fraction of the price of its original retail.
And as an end user, am I dictating the price, or you as a platform is evaluating and then setting a price? Okay.
We provide free valuations for every item that's listed. And then off the back of that, we take a commission on the final sale.
Got it. So I'm guessing your ICP, like your target, is it just women at this point in time, or?
No, so we do menswear as well.
Okay.
And yeah, we actually get a lot of our sales through menswear because the sizing is a lot easier. With women's wear, we have very detailed sizing, so the measurements of the blouse, if there's if there is additional fabric, so that people can tailor it in and out. But for menswear, it's very simple kind of chest sizes, and so it's very easy to purchase menswear with us. Yeah.
And are they all occasion specific? As in, I mean, your highest, I'm guessing, are people going for weddings, so either bride and groom or bridesmaids, groomsmaid. So that's your main target, or is it different occasions as well?
It's different occasions. We kind of set out to kind of solve the problem for brides, grooms, and wedding party, but now we've grown into guest wear, party wear, all across essentially, because we work with boutiques and boutiques sell their sample pieces with us as well. So we also have a bunch of outfits that are kind of unworn, untouched, but
wow.
we're also kind of going to go to waste or sold at a like very, very low price. So a lot of our boutique partners we have working with us, especially like menswear boutiques, women's wear. So yeah, that also is part of our offering.
And as an end user, I know that this is a used or not like a brand new piece of clothing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that would have a certain different price also. Obviously cheaper than, or, much more affordable than actually going to the boutique, but it would have a certain benchmark. I mean, I'm paying a little bit more premium than it would be for the used.
It really depends. Because some of the once-wear items, most of the once-wear items are in pristine condition because they've been worn for an hour or two. Some have been worn by models for a shoot for an hour. Some have been worn to events, but they're in such perfect condition. It's almost interchangeable with the ones that have been on the shop floor. And I think that's what we're also trying to demonstrate, that, just because it's been used, it does not mean that it's been completely worn out. And yes, if it has been completely worn out, the price will reflect that. But more often than not, they're not, because we don't have the number of events, or, living outside of India, you don't have kind of hundreds of events to wear these outfits to. And each outfit is very specific to the event that you're kind of going to.
Yeah.
So whether you're part of the bridal party or whether you're a guest, you'll be wearing very different outfits. And so the likelihood of you actually being able to wear things more than once for a long period of time is relatively low.
And what do you see as a typical cycle? Like how many times are clothes repeated? Because you mentioned the 6 times. Is it more than 6? I mean, what's the average?
It depends on, again, it really depends on the outfit, the type of work that's on the outfit. But if it's kept in great condition and worn for a couple of hours ago, and it's kind of cleaned every time and preserved in the best way, I guess like up to 10 times. But it really does depend on the type of outfit, the work, because you can get some cotton shararas that will last a very long time because you don't wear them enough.
I think this was important for me to know, just from a awareness perspective, because you spoke about how these 2 wedding dresses you had, one from your brother's wedding and one from your sister's wedding.
It was 5 from both.
Because there's multiple occasions, multiple events within that. Because obviously I forget, Indian weddings are not just a wedding, it's a festival. So but it's also interesting to know, because if that is the lifespan of a particular dress or a piece of clothing, and we're just wearing it that one time, like how much of an impact it has on the environment and the entire ecosystem behind that chain as well. Like, it was a huge impact. And I think, I mean, what do most people do? Like, I mean, because it also takes a lot of space in your wardrobe. So, I mean, do people just give it away for charity? Like, what is a general behavior of people?
Yeah. So when we did the initial market research, we found that the majority of people store the items in their houses, in their lofts, in suitcases, under their beds, and they take up so much space. And I think that gave me the confidence to be able to kind of take the plunge in building this, because I knew, obviously, building a marketplace is that chicken and egg scenario. You need the supply to meet the demand, and then the demand. And for us launching, we didn't have the first hurdle, because everybody wants to offload their pieces. We had to be very selective in the pieces that we took, so that we were taking things that were in perfect condition, but we had a massive pool of resources ready to be sold. And just within my immediate family, we had about 100 outfits after the wedding. So it really, we were able to kind of tackle that supply side issue very quickly. And then we started getting boutiques on board after them seeing the traction that we were getting. So from that perspective, people really wanted an outlay or somewhere that they could kind of offload their outfits to. And the other thing was when we're talking about, recently engaged brides, if they buy from us and then after their wedding, they know about us, they'll sell with us, and then they'll come back to us after a few years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, after they get married, they move out of their family homes, they move into the city or have much smaller spaces. The outfits are either left in their family homes or they are squeezing it in their small kind of apartments, which is difficult. And most people also after their weddings want a bit of money back after spending a whole load on all 5 events or their festival that they've had as a wedding. So it kind of, from a seller's and buyer's perspective, it kind of works hand in hand almost. And I think back to a point I wanted to make earlier around the question that you asked about, whether people want to have the whole and the experience of the whole buying experience. Another aspect is the fact that we get access to outfits in the same season. And I think a lot of shops and boutiques here will be getting things a season later because of the shipment and how long it takes for things to come in. So we had a bride that wore like a new season Falguni Shane piece. One, I don't think there are any major retailers here that sell Falguni Shane, but 2, it was new season and she got access to it. So we do get access to pieces as soon as a bride has had their wedding and selling it within those 2 weeks. You're still in the same season. People want to buy that. So there's some additional benefits that, you can get access to designers, 1 for half the price, 2 that you wouldn't even be able to get until next season anyway. So that also helps.
And at an affordable price, whilst impacting the environment in a positive way as well. Yeah.
To produce a whole
Yeah. So what's the end of life? Like, what was the end? Like, I mean, okay, we spoke about 6 to 10 times, but then what happens? Are you guys also part of the end of life, or?
No, we don't get involved in that. But honestly, like, we've not. I said, 6 to 10 times, but that's very arbitrary. It depends on the piece. And the reality is because they're hardly worn, they don't get damaged if they're kept well. If they do get damaged, usually we wouldn't really take on a significantly damaged piece because we know that the resale value is low, or buyers aren't actually looking for pieces like that. But we do kind of work with other companies that can do upcycling, or, that you can send to charity and things like that. So we partner with other companies. And it is getting more and more popular to upcycle outfits, especially saris, because you can make them into langas and you can make them into scarves and things like that. And we encourage that as much as we can. Yeah.
But not
we don't do anything in-house.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking from a sustainability perspective, like, I mean, eventually you hit a place where, okay, either it's damaged or like it's just been worn out, and then what do we do with that product? Because I mean, and I think that is one of the reasons people also don't give this away for charity, because it's not like a t-shirt or a pair of jeans. Like, I mean, like, when and how are people gonna be able to wear this unless and until it's upcycled, like changed into a different form for me to be able to, or anybody else to be able to wear it as a day-to-day.
Yeah. And I think upcycling is it's a lot more accessible now as well. Previously, you'd have your kind of your tailor that you'd go to, but now there's a lot of platforms that have it's almost like an Upwork model for upcyclers and designers and things. So there are options out there. But right now, a lot of people kind of, because it's a buy and sell. It's like eBay. Like, what happens to that T-shirt that you bought off eBay? It's a similar sort of question. But we haven't taken, we're trying to tackle the initial problem first, as to let's make sure everything that's in people's wardrobes are now being recirculated. And off the back of that, when it does get to end of life, let's partner with these other companies that allow you to recycle, or allow you to kind of make sure that there's enough space in it so that if you put on weight or lose weight, you can still wear it, or, you know, pass it down generations, etc.
Just coming back to sustainability again and the whole environment aspect, we did joke about how Indian weddings are a festival. They're not just like a one-day affair. Do you have any stats around, how much of a impact do these ethnic, clothing or, festivals cost us from an environmental perspective?
Yeah. So I always use this example of let's take like a cotton T-shirt. And to produce that, on average, it takes about 5,000 litres of water just to produce 3,000 to 5,000. So that's just simple math. Let's just use 5,000. Then each South Asian outfit is kind of 5 kilograms on average, or 3 to 5 kilograms. Let's say it's 3 kilograms. You're timesing that water consumption by 3. So you're already on 15,000 litres of water. Then you're timesing that by 5 for the number of events that you're going to. So, it just racks up and racks up. And that's just from a water perspective. Now imagine energy and the dyeing of the products. So in terms of production, it's hugely wasteful. And then that's just the clothing aspect. Then when you think about all the other, like the decor that comes into the weddings, and it's hugely wasteful, and it's very difficult to do an Indian wedding sustainably. And I think a lot of people are trying to, because we get like sustainable brides that come in saying we want to do our wedding as sustainable as possible, because they just don't know where you can kind of and so they're like, hey, let's start with the clothing, because at least we know that this is a sustainable way of kind of dressing for our weddings. But some people do it via food, but it's difficult, it's hard, and so that's why clothing is quite an easy way of saying, okay, at least my clothing is sustainable.
And how are you finding your customers, or vice versa, also how are customers finding you? Like, is there an educational piece that you're going towards as well? Are you trying to educate the market, or are your customers already self-aware and they're focused about some brides, they want to do things sustainably? So what is your
so initially, in the first kind of 2 years of building the platform, our messaging was very much educational. We quickly kind of found out that our consumer doesn't, I don't know how to put this.
Give a shit.
And they care a lot more about the price point and the access to designers. And that's how that's kind of where we shifted our messaging. And a byproduct is the sustainability. So yes, for me, sustainability is super important and like a key driver of why I'm building the business. But if that's not talking to our customers, what will for them to be sustainable? And yes, it's the price point, it's the designers, it's the quality of the product that we have, it's access to the product that we have, and it's things that people like. So all of those things are bringing the customers in, and then word of mouth is kind of allowing us to grow. But sustainability, unfortunately, is not the key driver that's bringing people in.
And I think that's I think that's okay. For a business, if you're looking at sustainability, in our case, when we're looking at mental health, I think, there's a lot of talk around sustainability, mental health, and a lot of these agendas, but it's never, the actions don't equate to how much people talk about it. But I think as a business, if you also have to somehow meet the customer where they're at, and then you have whatever agenda you're trying to fix and solve through that. I think that's okay if that's a byproduct. So Tesla, for example, sustainability, electric cars, so on. But if Tesla was a crappy car, and if it didn't do the things that it does, people would not buy a Tesla. The car has to perform first. That's super important. The price point has to be in check. The tech has to be in check, and so on and so forth. And then sustainability is great. Oh my God, and it's eco-friendly as well. Like, wow, how amazing is that? So I think it's also okay.
Yeah, and I think either way, as long as people are being sustainable at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how they get there. It's just about getting people there.
Yeah.
And yes, we try to educate people about it, but I don't think the market's ready yet. So we're going with something that the market is ready for, which is, cost of living crisis. And, there's so many other things that are front of mind for our consumer that we talk to versus pushing the sustainability agenda to people that, may or may not be as interested or may have higher things on their list of values and priorities.
And I think all the customers as well, whoever you're serving, obviously those are the things that you're leading with. But then when you tell them it's also the sustainability aspect, that is definitely a cherry on top.
Yeah.
I mean, would they
and
buy
everybody's
without
interested in it.
Yeah. I mean, would they buy without it? Perhaps yes. But I mean, this is also, it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, great. I'm also helping the environment whilst I'm saving money. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the future? I mean, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Where's the business going?
So we're growing really fast, which we're really excited about. And we're moving into a bigger space, which is super exciting. But again, it's more about kind of building that community out through events, through kind of as you were mentioning about this podcast, kind of bringing like-minded people together. And continuing to get more and more people on board with buying a sustainable or pre-loved option versus buying new.
I love the pre-loved option. Also, is there also any other vertical in the horizon? Like, because you spoke about, people want to be sustainable in the entire festivity, not just clothing. So is there anything else as well that you might dabble into?
No, I would love to. I'd love to get involved, mainly not necessarily through Circular Threads, but through kind of building a consortium of sustainable businesses, because it's like, as we were discussing, it's difficult to have sustainable weddings. So just ensuring that we're kind of all working together, all the sustainable businesses coming together to support each other.
The reason I also asked you that question is because we spoke about end of life, and you are working with a few people of end of life. So that's maybe one element, and then something else. And I don't know, it just expands to something bigger than what you're already doing.
Yeah, no, I think just getting more involved with partnerships as well, because we are looking at, potential tailoring services and dry cleaning services, and kind of becoming that end-to-end destination for circular fashion for ethnic wear. And I think along those lines, it's also looking at new product lines as well. So we're working with boutiques, working with individuals, but also thinking about, okay, do we expand to accessories, shoes, and kind of the end-to-end look for Indian weddings.
Which obviously makes sense, because we started this whole conversation because of the whole pain point. The process is beautiful, but it's also very painful. So if we can bring that convenience bit as well, like, okay, so you're also meeting the customer where they're at. So you're leading with the you're leading with the price point and new fashion price point. Okay, so if you can bring in the convenience element, I don't have to go anywhere else. Okay, this is the one-stop shop for everything that I need to do for my wedding or that event that I want to organize. It just makes my life easier. So you bring that convenience at affordable cost, and it's sustainable. I think it's just magic.
Yeah, no. Well, we're very excited.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Thank
This
you.
has been an absolutely amazing conversation. Like I said in the beginning of the spot, I love what you do. I think sustainability is super important in every aspect. I think, I believe as human beings, we have a fundamental duty to leave this world in a better place than we found it. I'm glad you're doing your part and hoping and helping a lot of us also go through that. I'm going to be looking at your side as well. I do have the event coming up, by the way,
Oh, no
really
way.
soon. So I don't know how soon can I curate
Yeah.
something from you guys, which is I have an event actually coming up this weekend. But yeah,
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna
let me
try and
know. Yeah,
yes,
we
I
can
will.
sort something
I
out, I'm
will.
sure.
But no, thank you so much, Anoli, for coming on
Thank
this pod. It
you.
was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me.